Dear colleagues, please take your seats so that we can proceed. Dear colleagues, welcome to Porto. It is a great pleasure to meet this morning in this remarkable and historical center and beautiful surroundings. Let us already thank our hosts for what I'm sure will be a successful annual session. And colleagues, before we begin, please note that this meeting is being recorded. Let me also use this opportunity to welcome those of you participating in the meeting of the Standing Committee for the first time. First, we go to the item number 1, adoption of the agenda. I would like to ask you first to adopt the agenda for this meeting, which has been circulated. The agenda is adopted. Thank you. I would like to ask members wishing to raise any point under item 7, other business, to inform the Secretariat in advance during the course of this meeting. Then we go to item number 2, practical and procedural matters for the 32nd annual session. The annual session's procedural information, as well as a document explaining in detail the process for electing assembly and committee officers, have been widely circulated in advance of this meeting. Let me just highlight a few important points. With regards to elections, first of all, the deadline for nominations of assembly officers is 9:30 on Tuesday, the 1st of July. Early voting for members who have an unavoidable obligation to leave the annual session before Thursday will take place from noon to 6 o'clock on Tuesday, 1st of July, and 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Wednesday, the 2nd of July. I remind you that members must request early voting in writing before 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday, the 2nd of July. The elections for assembly officers will be held on the morning of Thursday, the 3rd of July, between 8:30 and 10:30 a.m. I have appointed Karina Ödebrink from Sweden, Kyriakos Hadiani from Cyprus, and Nikita Poturaye from Ukraine as tellers. Thank you, Karina, Kyriakos, and Nikita, for taking on this duty. I repeat, these points relate to the election of assembly officers. To facilitate the process to elect committee officers, the general committees will be invited to set a nomination deadline of Tuesday, the 1st of July at 6 p.m. This will be confirmed by each general committee at their first meeting. These elections will take place during the last meeting of the general committee. With regards to the list of speakers, in line with the rule 27.2, members wishing to speak in debate should sign up no later than 1 hour before the announced time of the opening of the sitting. I stress this in particular for the debates in plenary on the 2nd and on the 3rd of July, for which we will have strict time constraints. Let me also announce that John Whittingale will be chairing the drafting committee in charge of preparing the Porto Declaration. Dear colleagues, let me now take a moment to explain that the Standing Committee will be asked to take several decisions. The Standing Committee today will first be asked to approve the list of registered participants. This is a technical matter to validate signatures for amendments and supplementary items. The Standing Committee will then be asked to approve membership of the general committees. Again, this is a technical matter to ensure compliance with our rules of procedure. After this, the Standing Committee will be asked to place supplementary items on the agenda of the annual session and to confirm their placement for consideration by the plenary or a general committee. Please note that according to our rules of procedure, the inclusion of each supplementary item on the agenda of the annual session requires a a 2/3 majority. Their allocation to a committee or the plenary requires a simple majority. All other decisions will require consensus -1. Following these technical matters, the Standing Committee will be asked to approve the budget. This will need to be approved by consensus -1. Are there any questions before we proceed? Don't see any questions, so we go to item number 2.1, which is approval of registered participation according to Rule 24.1. The International Secretariat has distributed the preliminary list of participants. The International Secretariat has been notified about members of the Assembly who had registered for the meeting but who are unable to attend due to unavoidable obligations. Their names do not appear on this list, but if their head of delegation has appropriately informed us in accordance with Rule 24.2, their signatures remain valid. Of course, the International Secretariat can provide their names to any member who wishes. For the purposes of validation of signatures, does the Standing Committee approve the list? The list is approved. Then we go to item number 2.2, which is ratification of the membership of the 3 general committees according to Rule 36.2. In accordance with Rule 36.2, membership of the General Committee shall be ratified by the Standing Committee of the Bureau. All delegations have been reminded of the request of the Standing Committee that the distribution of members between the 3 general committees should be as equal as possible. The Secretary General has indicated to me that these rules have been observed and that the table office is distributing voting cards for the 3 committees in accordance with as equal as division as possible to comply with this. Is the membership of the general committees agreed to? It is. Thank you. Item number 2.3, which is inclusion and placement of supplementary items according to Rule 21.1. In accordance with Rule 21.1, the agenda of the annual session may be supplemented by an item or a motion on any matter within the competence of the OSCE, which does not relate directly to subjects proposed by the General Rapporteurs to the 3 committees. The International Secretariat has received 21 supplementary items with sufficient support for consideration during this annual session. The list of supplementary items has been circulated. Each of the 21 supplementary items now require a 2/3 majority to be included on the agenda of the annual session. Rule 21.1 limits the number of supplementary items that can be added to the agenda to 15. Therefore, if all 21 supplementary items are approved by the Standing Committee, a ballot to achieve the required limit of 15 may be necessary. However, there is a good solution that will enable us to consider all items that are approved. Rule 21, paragraph 3, allows a supplementary item without amendment to proceed under a separate procedure with limited debate, thus allowing our annual session to consider all supplementary items that receive a 2/3 majority. Please note that no amendments have been tabled for a number of supplementary items. I understand that the authors of items 3, 13, 16, 18, 19, and 21 have agreed to have their texts considered under this procedure. I thank the authors Eugenio Zoffili, Chris Smith, Irene Charalambides, Lucia Taser, Pere Johan Pons, and Farah Karimi for their flexibility. All of them serve as special representatives. I hope that committee chairs will be flexible and accommodating for these members to discuss their thinking in their supplementary items. We will therefore proceed as follows. The Standing Committee will first be asked whether to include the supplementary items on its agenda through a two-thirds majority of the votes cast. Please be reminded that only members who are acting in the capacity of the head of delegation may vote. If no separate vote is requested on any supplementary item, all 21 supplementary items will therefore be deemed to have been agreed by consensus. Does the Standing Committee approve all these items? Farah Karimi, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you, our delegation members of our host country, first of all. Thank you for organizing this. I have actually one question, and that is in regard to supplementary item 6. It actually deals with the Parliamentary Assembly's financial situation. And I was wondering why it should be actually handled with or deals with in a committee and not in plenary.
I will now ask Andreas Baker to take the floor, please.
Thank you very much for the question. We've set out the suggestion based on achieving an overall balance so that we have sufficient time to deal with everything. If there's a proposal to move it, that can certainly be done. But noting that there was a couple of amendments too, we thought that a committee might be the most appropriate place to address that, but there's no particular reason for that. We try and, it's within the field of economic affairs, we thought that could be appropriate, but by all means, if there's a suggestion to move it, that can be considered.
I understand the practical thing, but it actually deals with the financial of the whole assembly. So it seems logical to put it on plenary, but I am not very, it is not something that I am very attached to, but just as a question.
We can move it to the plenary, provided that we have two-thirds majority to that. So if the Standing Committee agrees, we can move it to the plenary.
Numbers. First we have to vote on the...
I give the floor to Georgia first.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, everyone. Happy to see you here, and thanks to Portugal for organizing this event this year. I have a request to put on the vote the supplementary item that concerns Georgia and only Georgia on factual grounds, because there are many misrepresentation of the facts in the draft resolution. The one regarding strengthening ties with the Russian Federation and China is utter nonsense. Georgia, I think, is the only country in this room that hasn't had diplomatic relations with Russia for the last 17 years, and we still don't have diplomatic relations with Russia, and we haven't had any political level meetings with Russia for the last 17 years. So I don't know what is the reference to strengthening ties with the Russian Federation when we are the only country which doesn't have diplomatic relations with them. On China, I think all countries present here have diplomatic relations with China and trade with China. So I don't know what the author is referring to. Similarly, there are factual inaccuracies regarding the points 1 and 2 on the last year's elections in Georgia, which do not coincide with the findings of the OSCE or their observation report. There are also factual inaccuracies regarding some of the laws that apparently have been adopted, and finally the drifting away from European integration is also factually not correct, because European Union membership is our constitutional choice. Furthermore, most of these issues are already reflected anyway in the report and in the draft resolution. Therefore, I think that this supplementary item is obsolete, and therefore I require to put this on the vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I next give the floor to Kyriakos Hadianne from Cyprus, please.
The microphones are not working.
I think now it's okay. Thank you very much, also the organizers for this excellent meeting for the annual session. And for the supplementary item number 7, I want to please for moving this in the assembly, because we try to include and to strengthen the dialogue actually for a group of countries for the Southeast Europe. For this reason, we need to have a much more participation, and this participation is secured through the assembly. Thank you once again for this, and I please everybody to support this need from my side as special representative for Southeast Europe.
Thank you. Anybody else?
France.
France, you have the floor.
Oui, merci Madame la Présidente, et merci à tous nos amis portugais pour ce magnifique accueil à Porto aujourd'hui. Sur le point supplémentaire numéro 17 de Monsieur Alizard, sur le multilinguisme, Monsieur Alizard ne sera pas là pour la séance du 2 après-midi, et il souhaiterait tout particulièrement pouvoir défendre lui-même son texte. Madame la Présidente, je demande au nom de la délégation française que le point supplémentaire sur le multilinguisme numéro 17 soit renvoyé, si possible, à la première commission. Je vous remercie.
Merci. Is there anybody else who would like to take the floor? That's it. So, the procedure is as follows. I would like to ask the head of delegation of Georgia regarding the supplementary item number 14. Would you request a separate vote on that?
Yes, yes.
All right. So, according to our rules, debate on this item will be limited to one speaker against placing the supplementary item on the agenda and one speaker in favor. Each speaker may speak for no more than 2 minutes. So, does anyone wish to speak against the request of the head of delegation of Georgia? That means deleting the item. So, in other words, does anyone wish to speak in favor of keeping the item? Poland, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much, organizers and our hosts in this beautiful city of Porto. It's a great pleasure to be here and to talk all these extremely important items. One of them is the case of Georgia. We all observed violations during last parliamentary elections. I was among the observers. We have deep concerns, and they are, I believe, not only ours, but they are shared by many other members of the Assembly and the countries. And it's extremely important issue. That is why we ask you to keep it as it was in the agenda.
Thank you, and we will now proceed to vote on the inclusion of item number 14. And I would like those who are in favor of keeping the item number 14 on the agenda to raise their cards. Thank you. You can now put down your cards. And then I would like to ask those who are against keeping this item on the agenda to raise your cards.
5.
We have a two-thirds majority.
So the result is as follows. Those in favor of keeping the item number 14 on the agenda was 23, and those against 4. So the item will be kept on the agenda. So my question to you next is, does the Standing Committee approve of all the other items on the agenda? I can see nodding, so no objection. All the other items are also accepted. Then, dear colleagues, we go on accepting to move certain items to other committees or plenaries. And first we vote on number 6. Item number 6, it was asked to be moved from the second committee to plenary. Does anybody object? No objections. It will be moved to the plenary. And then item number 7, that was asked to be moved from first committee to plenary. Does anybody have any objections? No objections, approved. Then we have item number 17, that was asked to be moved from the plenary to the first committee. Does anybody object? No objections, approved. And then. Thank you, colleagues. I now invite delegations to sign up speakers for the debates in advance of our plenary sitting this afternoon. Please remember to do that on time. And then we move on to item number 3, which is report of the President of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, which is me. So. A written report covering my activities since the winter meeting has been distributed. I will only highlight a few points before opening the floor for questions. First, I want to underline that this annual session marks a year of hard work. I would like to again thank the Portuguese Parliament for their efforts in hosting this event, which is another way of strengthening dialogue and cooperation within the OSCE. And let's be clear, there is much for us to discuss. The current international situation is one of the most turbulent times in decades. Within the very core of our region, Ukraine continues to face constant and brutal attacks from Russia. We must continue with all possible efforts to support our Ukrainian friends and bring this war to an end. I believe that we have been responsive to calls from our Ukrainian colleagues and shown our solidarity, particularly through holding a bureau meeting in Kyiv, and I hope we continue to prioritize this. I thank all those that joined me in Kyiv, but particularly I want to thank Mikita and Artur for your strength and friendship. Having visited the Israel and Ramallah twice in the past year as president, events in that region also weigh heavily on my mind. Working closely with Pascal Alizad, Per Pons, Luis Grasa and Kyriakos Hadiani in my latest trip, I believe that we have established the OSCPA as a reliable partner in the region. We should continue to be responsive to requests from partner parliaments in the region. But we must, of course, also be vocal in calling out the terrible humanitarian abuses that are taking place. I have been pleased that within the Bureau we have also had several opportunities to consider long-term strategic planning. We need to ensure that the Assembly is making best use of its comparative advantage. In this regard, I have been impressed by the breadth of discussions taking place within the context of the OSCPA, even outside of our official meetings. The recent conference in Rome, exploring crime, corruption and terrorism, is an excellent example of how parliamentarians with expertise and interest can gather to share and gain knowledge on key security issues. I would also like to applaud our many younger colleagues active in the youth network which meets on the sidelines of our Assembly. Their focus on the future of multilateralism and youth mediators are good examples of how youth experiences offer particular and important perspectives for our work. The problems of today and tomorrow are too serious to be left to more senior politicians. I hope that efforts to increase their activity, both in our Assembly and in national parliaments through, for example, quotas, will be taken seriously. You will have seen a proposal for an ad hoc committee proposed by our Special Representative on Youth Engagement. While I strongly welcome the proposal, I understand that further discussion of this may be needed before any decision. I would welcome any thoughts on this and hope it will be taken seriously by the coming leadership of the Assembly. Our Assembly is also well positioned to lead conversations on challenging innovations in the electoral sphere, which we see occurring through our observation work. We need to consider our processes in this field, as disinformation and algorithm manipulation increasingly replace ballot box stuffing. I'm very pleased that an Other Side event taking lessons from our observation work will be held here in the coming days, focused on campaigning online and challenges of disinformation in elections. As this is my last report as President to the Standing Committee, I want to thank you all for your support and cooperation during my presidency. I would also like to extend my thanks to Roberto Montella and the Secretariat that he leads in Copenhagen and Vienna. I have greatly appreciated their support and guidance throughout my presidency as I worked to represent the Assembly in Central Asia, Europe, North America and the Middle East. I'm sure that with similar backing for the next president, whoever he or she might be, the Assembly will continue to achieve great things. As mentioned earlier, additional details are available in the written version of this report, which provides a more complete overview of my activities during the past year. I welcome any comments you may have. I first give the floor to Norway and Slovenia and then Netherlands. Norway, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to thank the President for taking part in our seminar to mark 50 years of the Helsinki Final Act. It was a pleasure to having you in Oslo. The Norwegian delegation organized a seminar in cooperation with the Helsinki Committee to mark the anniversary in the Storting in June. The Secretary General of the OSCE, Mr. Seridon Sinerlelolo, as well as a large group of NGOs from all over the OSCE area took part. I would like to ensure other delegations to do the same this year to mark 50 years of the Helsinki Final Act. Back to the President's report. I think it's important that it is balanced on the Middle East. The Norwegian government and our parliament is clear that Israel is in breach with international law. This aspect is something I miss in the President's report. I support the revised budget proposal of the Treasurer. It's necessary to adapt the activity to the economic situation. I would like to close by paying tribute to the OSCE PA Youth Network. They have arranged workshops with representatives from civil society and other network activities. These have given the members of our delegation important input towards new initiatives. I believe this has helped to revitalize the work of our Assembly. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Siv. It was a real pleasure for me to visit Oslo 2 weeks ago. Next, I give the floor to Slovenia, Lucia Tățere. After that, she will be followed by Netherlands, Belarus, and Spain. Lucia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, for opening the issue of the institutionalization of the network of young parliamentarians, as well as your supportive stance on this issue thus far. Dear colleagues, in the Birmingham Declaration in 2022, we wrote that the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly recommends the integration of the network of young parliamentarians into the formal structures of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. Today, I speak to you as the representative for youth engagement with the thought that we must start delivering and hopefully in short term deliver on our commitments in the resolutions. At this point, I must extend my gratitude to all the predecessors on this post, especially considering the Birmingham Declaration, to the first representative on youth engagement, Farah Karimi. it is on your shoulders that we are standing today. So what are the main reasons for institutionalizing the network of young parliamentarians? I can provide you with two important and broad ones. First, sustainability of the network, so that the informal structure is not left up to individual engagement, but is recognized as a formal structure that is essential for reaching the goals that the OSCE Assembly has. And second, reaffirming the OSCE PA's commitment to youth engagement, a symbol that we together as an assembly are better if we put a permanent role for young people, supporting them and making sure that we are as aware as possible of their needs and future commitments. What is our proposal, or my proposal, as the special representative? The OSCE PA network of young parliamentarians would be set as in a framework as an ad hoc committee, building on a practice that we already have in our statutes. The chair would be appointed according to the results of our internal elections that we have in the network. The meetings would proceed as we do now on the margins of the statutory assemblies, and we would provide a regular report to the standing committee. Importantly, I think in this address I must also address how we got here. In 2021, the network was established with statutes that regulates our internal work. In 2022, Birmingham Declaration set out this goal for making the informal network into a structure of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. Since 2022, we have shown persistent work and commitment to making sure that we strengthen the bridge between our youth constituents in the OSCE PA participating states and the discussions that we hold at this assembly. Just to give you a few examples, the Youth Perspectives Initiative is most stark of them. This year, for the second time, our members have organized discussions with their young constituents on topics that we have later submitted to this committee as a supplementary item. This year we were talking about brain drain, how we can see this brain circulation phenomenon as one that can lead not only to better situation economically for participating states, but also as a tool for a safer environment in the region we are living in. Regularly, we are meeting on the sidelines of statutory meetings. The past two have been in Ireland. We've had a meeting focused on restorative justice, and in Vienna, focusing on international security. We've also had thematic meetings in Norway, energy security, as well as Slovenia, brain drain, where we started exploring this idea that we then took on to discussions with our constituents, and now we will have the chance to discuss it at the plenary. To sum up, I look forward to hearing your feedback on our initiative, and I believe that taking the next step and making this informal structure into something permanent will be an important message and actually an enhancement of our assembly, making sure that in the future we will always keep in mind that the voice of young people, which is underrepresented in leadership positions, is pertinent for keeping our region secure. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucia. Maybe as a testament to this organization, I would like to say that I personally support institutionalizing the youth network, because I think that many of the security challenges are such that it will be the young generation that will actually face them, like, for example, climate change, and also what we have been talking in the CCT ad hoc committee regarding recruitment of young people online for terrorism and so forth. So there are so many challenges that touch upon young generation. So I'm fully in line in what you just said. The next speaker will be from Netherlands, Farah Karimi. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you very much for your excellent report. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for really good cooperation that we had. And also to thank you for the way that you have had actually the leadership that you have shown in the past 2 years. Especially, I have to emphasize your inclusive way of working. And I hope that the next president, who might be, I am afraid it is going to be a he, that he will actually continue the same way of working. As a special representative on Central Asia, I was always actually very sure about your support as previous special representative on Central Asia, and would like especially to thank you for that. And also the introducing of the visits to OSCE offices in Serbia, in Tajikistan. I hope again that will be continued. To continue actually my short intervention, I would really strongly support the suggestion of Lucia Tesoro for institutionalizing the network of the young parliamentarians. As was mentioned, we already decided upon that in the Birmingham Declaration. We have had several actually resolutions on future generations, on the role of the young generation, and I think this is only a logical step to do so. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Farah. It has also been a pleasure for me to work with you and all the rest of your colleagues as well. In my opinion, inclusive way of working is probably the only possible way of working for this kind of organization, because we all face the same challenges, so we need to discuss and debate and find ways to forward. So the next speaker will be from Belarus, and Mr. Rashkov. You have the floor.
Госпожа председатель, уважаемые участники заседания, в рамках обсуждения доклада председателя Парламентской ассамблеи ОБСЕ хочу отметить, что сегодня европейский континент, который в 20 веке пережил 2 разрушительные мировые войны, вновь оказался в эпицентре глубокого конфликта. Более того, по всему миру вспыхивают новые очаги напряженности и насилия. И это, к сожалению, все чаще воспринимается как обыденная норма. На наших глазах рушатся прежние представления о стабильности и предсказуемости в международных отношениях. Миру как никогда ранее грозит опасность скатиться к взаимному гарантированному уничтожению, если не предпринять решительные усилия по возвращению к диалогу, доверию и мирному сосуществованию. Объективно, сегодня необходимо признать, что общеевропейская система безопасности фактически демонтирована. Она не существует ни как устойчивая система, ни как ценностный ориентир. Страны-члены НАТО полагают, что находятся под защитой своего альянса, но этот альянс действует в ущерб другим структурам, игнорируя альтернативные форматы обеспечения безопасности, которые могли бы быть инклюзивными и учитывать интересы всех. Ключевая цель Беларуси в ОБСЕ – не обвинять и дружить против кого-либо, а находить пути к безопасности вместе со всеми. Мы по-прежнему убеждены в том, что необходим немедленный переход к предметному и равноправному диалогу. Беларусь готова играть активную роль в этом процессе, выступая за разработку новой модели безопасности, охватывающей не только Европу, но и всю Евразию. Мы живем в 21 веке, и сегодня уже невозможно отделить европейскую безопасность от евразийской. Это единое взаимосвязанное пространство. Формируемая архитектура безопасности должна быть инклюзивной, основанной на восстановлении принципа неделимости безопасности, на уважении суверенитета, законных интересов всех государств и недопущении их исключения из диалога. Мы предлагаем начать совместную работу над соответствующим международным документом в духе Хельсинки где были заложены основы мирного сосуществования, и в духе Сан-Франциско, где были сформированы основы Организации Объединенных Наций. Беларусь призывает к безотлагательному началу серьезного обсуждения будущей архитектуры евразийской безопасности в рамках подготовки Хартии многообразия и многополярности в 21 веке. Это обсуждение должно опираться на принципы мира, сотрудничества, предсказуемости и равноправия. Только такая система будет способна обеспечить устойчивое развитие, прогресс и созидание для всех народов нашего общего большого евразийского континента. Благодарю за внимание.
Thank you, Mr. Rashkov. I fully agree with you when you say that it is not possible to separate European security from Eurasian security. All the crises and all the security issues are linked to one another. And I would also like to thank you for your active participation, your personal active participation in our activities, for example, in our trip to field missions. So our next speaker is going to go to Spain, and Per Pons, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, dear Pia. Just a first idea on the basis of the personal relation in the last 2 years. I would like to say that it was very easy to work with you in the Bureau. And I think it's a real pleasure to have spent the last 2 years from different perspectives, but also thinking big. I think this is the most important thing, that I think that we were able to think big, because the challenges are extremely huge. And I think that in the end, in the Bureau and the whole Assembly, we were able to work, and I quote an MP who told me that this morning, that we were able to work on the base of the force of arguments and not on the base of the arguments of force. And I think this is important. And I will be very brief. I would like to thank you also the Portuguese colleagues that are hosting the Assembly. But just 3-4 things about the last 2 years, your mandate actually. I would say the first thing, and after my colleague from Russia, I think you were able to keep the Assembly united and united for peace. And I think this is the most important thing, an achievement, because in the end we are accountable after these 2 years. We are still united, and Mikita knows perfectly how it went in the last Bureau meeting. It was very challenging, but we are still united. The second thing is that you mentioned our trip to the West Bank and to Israel, that we were able to have, or we are able to have real impact where it matters. We were in Kyiv, we were in Israel, West Bank, and we also were in the elections, in the most important elections last year. So I think also it's important to recognize that we have improved our response to the electoral challenges, not only to the voting process, but also to the new threats, bots, disinformation, cybersecurity, etc. So I think it's important to think on that. In terms of the governance, I think we have been thinking for the last 2 years on the future of the CPS, so it was also an important work. And I would like to end just saying that in these challenging times, it's more needed than ever this kind of assemblies. We need more dialogue, we need more peace, we need more interparliamentary connection, and I will end with that. It was really also rich to be on the ground visiting OSCE missions, the last one in Tajikistan, for example. It was a must of your mandate. So these are some of the achievements of your mandate, and some of the members, for example, some of the younger generation are asking for more accountability. And this is what we have to do in the future, that we have to be able to deliver what we did in the last 2 years or in our mandate. So thank you again, and it was a pleasure to work with you in the Bureau and in the Parliamentary Assembly. Thank you, Pia.
Thank you, Per, for your kind words. It has been a real pleasure for me to work with you as well. And I would also like to thank you for your very active participation in our activities and the work that you have done in the Bureau, because you have always had a lot of ideas of how to reform our activities and how to make this organization stronger in the future. I think it's very valuable. I next give the floor to Armenia and Sargis Kandanian. Sargis, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I would like to thank our Portuguese hosts for excellent organization of the meeting. Madam President, I want to thank you for your leadership for the past 2 years and for your meaningful engagement in many topics, including in your efforts for bringing peace and stability in South Caucasus. It was very important for us to have you on board and for your engagement. And as one of the founders of the network of young parliamentarians, I would also like to thank you for your support to the network. And I want to echo the proposal that my Slovenian colleague made. I think the institutionalization of the network is very important for the Parliamentary Assembly, for the future of the Parliamentary Assembly. For the past 4 years, we were actively engaged. We had meetings and activities that were covering all 3 dimensions of our organization. And sustainability was mentioned, which is very important. We are all politicians, and at the moment, network survives on our political commitment. I believe it is the right time to have institutionalized network that will continue its activities and bring new values to this organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sargis. Reaching peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan is one of the things that we would all like to see here in the Assembly. And I really hope that the next president will continue to support in that path. I must say that a highlight in my presidency, or at least one of them, was when I was able to appoint you, Sargis, and Azay Guliev from Azerbaijan to lead elections in election observation missions in Uzbekistan. That is really a good thing that you were able to work so well together, and it was a pleasure to see that. Thank you for that. So next speaker will be from Andorra, and the name is Mr. Artemi.
Thank you, Madam President. Dear colleagues, first of all, allow me to express my gratitude to our Portuguese host and to wish each one of you a very positive and inclusive session. Also, I would like to thank Madam Presidents Mrs. Pia Kalman, as well as Mrs. Farah Karimi and Sargis Kandanian from Armenia, for their alignment with the idea to formalize the Young Parliamentarians Network. Dear colleagues, the formalization of the Young Parliamentarians Network would only serve to recognize an already existing web of national representatives who have come together with a shared goal. That is to promote youth perspectives within the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. However, it is important to emphasize that the network's primary purpose is not merely to represent the views of young parliamentarians, but to ensure that the outcomes of this assembly remain aligned with the evolving priorities of the next generation of citizens. By formally acknowledging the existence of this network, we not only empower its members to carry out their work more effectively, but we also strengthen our Assembly's capacity to engage with fresh ideas and emerging voices. For all these reasons, I kindly ask for your support in endorsing this proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Artemi. My answer is clear. Yes, I support your initiative. So the next speaker goes to Eugenio Zoffili from Italy.
Grazie Pia, grazie Presidente Kama. Sarò veloce per ringraziare la delegazione portoghese che ci ospita, per ringraziarla dell'ottima organizzazione, per ringraziare lei, Presidente Kama, per ringraziarti Pia per il tuo grande lavoro con il segretario generale Montella e con tutto il team splendido energico, giovane del nostro segretariato dell'OSCE. Sono delle persone veramente brave, di una grande professionalità durante i meeting, durante le osservazioni e durante le visite sul campo. Pia, sei stata un bravo presidente, sintesi di testa, di cuore, di professionalità, hai svolto il tuo incarico con una grandissima professionalità. Io ti porto i ringraziamenti come capo della delegazione italiana rappresentando 13 parlamentari e li porto anche a nome del nostro team della Camera dei Deputati, del Senato, dei rapporti internazionali dei funzionari. Lo porto come ringraziamento, come rappresentante speciale per la lotta alla criminalità organizzata. In Italia abbiamo organizzato in 2 anni 3 eventi molto importanti: la visita a Roma e a Lampedusa, sul confine esterno dell'Europa, l'appuntamento con le Nazioni Unite, il Comitato ad hoc per la lotta al terrorismo e la conferenza di Roma per la lotta alla criminalità organizzata del mese scorso, che ha portato a Roma più di 130 parlamentari e 33 paesi. Siamo riusciti a fare tutto questo perché anche tu ci hai creduto molto e mi hai dato e ci hai dato fiducia. Grazie per le missioni sul campo, un flash molto importante. Io credo molto, e pur avendo 45 anni mi sento sempre un giovane, credo molto nella rete dei giovani, che va assolutamente istituzionalizzata. Settimana scorsa ho avuto l'opportunità di rappresentare tutti voi, di rappresentare tutta l'Assemblea OSCE alle Nazioni Unite di Vienna in una riunione sulla lotta alle droghe sintetiche. Ecco, queste droghe sono un alimento per la criminalità organizzata, la tengono in vita. Mi piacerebbe parlare con la rete dei giovani della lotta alle droghe, che sono morte per i nostri giovani e sono vita per la criminalità organizzata. In ultimo, una proposta che ho portato attraverso un emendamento alla risoluzione della prima commissione ed emersa dalla riunione di Roma. Propongo l'istituzione di un forum permanente per la legalità che coinvolga ogni delegazione e in cui al centro ci siano tutte le istanze che possiamo portare avanti per promuovere la legalità, perché l'OSCE è l'Organizzazione per la cooperazione e la sicurezza, per la sicurezza e la cooperazione in Europa. E la sicurezza, ne sono convinto, lo dico da rappresentante speciale, passa assolutamente da una ferma condanna e da una lotta concreta contro la criminalità organizzata, la sicurezza di tutta la nostra area. Grazie ancora di cuore.
Thank you, Mr. Cioffi, for your kind words. I must say that Italian delegation has been very, very active during the past years and very successful also. We were just recently in Rome attending a conference related to combating organized crime, and it was a success also, judging by the number of people who attended the conference. But I must say that our trip to Lampedusa a year and a half ago was really something to remember for the rest of my life, because you hear about people crossing the sea in very dangerous conditions, but when you see it firsthand, it is completely different. And you also saw how those people and their applications were handled after that in practice. That was a very good experience and also a learning experience for a Nordic, which I am, because that is really something that you in the south of Europe are facing, that I don't know if we in the north of Europe ever will understand completely. So thank you for organizing also that tremendous trip. The next speaker will be from France, so please, you have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Seulement quelques mots de remerciements chaleureux au nom de la délégation française, en l'absence ce matin de notre président Pascal Alizard, avec qui vous avez beaucoup travaillé. Quelques mots de remerciements à vous, particulièrement Pierre, parfaite francophone, et qui donnait, par votre capacité à parler le français, toute sa puissance et toute l'importance de du multilinguisme au sein de l'APOSCE. Donc en cette année du 50e anniversaire de l'acte final d'Helsinki, on a tous remarqué que c'est une période très délicate avec tous les conflits naissants aux quatre coins du monde et toutes ces élections tendues. Votre dynamisme, et c'est là que la délégation française veut vous donner vraiment un grand accessit et de remerciements. Votre dynamisme aux quatre coins du monde, comme vous l'avez rappelé, a permis de redonner tout son sens et toute sa puissance à notre organisation, à la POSCE. En plus, je voudrais donner un petit dernier point sur les affaires méditerranéennes. Vous avez accordé beaucoup d'importance aux affaires méditerranéennes avec votre travail avec Pascal. Et ce travail sur les affaires méditerranéennes, ça concerne toute notre organisation et encore plus aujourd'hui en cette période de troubles et de confrontation au Moyen-Orient. Alors pour tout ça, Pia, un grand merci de la part de la délégation française.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Comte. Ça a été un véritable plaisir pour moi de travailler avec la délégation française. Et en plus, il y a deux messieurs qui s'appellent Pascal dans votre délégation. Les deux sont formidables, en plus de tout le reste de la délégation, bien sûr. Merci. The next speaker will be Mr. Tsafoye from Uzbekistan.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to remind all of us that in 1 month we are going to celebrate 50 years of establishing OSCE as a very important platform for a dialogue. But at the same time, I fully agree with all those who mentioned that today we're living in a time of polycrisis, or simultaneous occurrence of several catastrophic events in our big continent. And I think that today, as never before, we realize the utmost importance of OSCE as a platform for dialogue. And I think that only solution to the challenges we face with is to build up understanding, trust. And I think that for that we need apply resource of parliamentary diplomacy. Week ago in Tashkent, I had the pleasure to meet Elina Valtonen, who is today heading the OSCE, and we agreed that today parliamentary diplomacy, as never before, can and should play a more active role in bridging different regions, bridging different countries, and creating more understanding and trust between nations. At this point, I'd like to express our full satisfaction with our cooperation with you, Madam President Kaola, and in your previous activity as an in charge for Central Asia. And we're happy to work with Ms. Farah Karimi, and I'm looking forward to see her today to continue our cooperation between the OSCE. And I think that today we know that Central Asia is an indispensable part of the European process, Helsinki documents, and we're fully committed for cooperation because we realize that the Ural Mountains is not dividing the continent for two separate parts. We are in the same boat, having same hopes, same challenges. Here I'd like to tell you that I think that our task of this organization where we are sitting today is to try to find more efficient way of using resources of parliamentary diplomacy to resolve the issues we face with. Security, ecology, migration, organized crime, transnational threats to the peace and security. And I think that what we need today is apply the analytical job, to have more conferences, to have an intellectual support and some recommendations to make our job more efficient and more with an aim-oriented. Once again, on behalf of Uzbek delegation, would like to, as a head of Uzbek delegation, I'd like to express our commitment to strengthen our cooperation in the framework of the Parliamentary Assembly of OSCE, and congratulate you with a wonderful job you have done so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zafoyev. As you pointed out, before becoming president of the Parliamentary Assembly, I worked as special rep on Central Asia, and that was really a delightful task that I had. And one of the things that I have been extremely pleased with is that I have seen increased cooperation between the 5 Central Asian countries, not only on the head of state level, but also on the parliamentary level. And I think it's very good. Because, like you said, you share mutual threats like migration, organized crime, water scarcity, electricity, shortcuts, and so forth. So it is indispensable to work together with the neighboring countries. And I have also pointed out at some occasions that maybe, since we also have 5 countries in the Nordic, so we have Nordic Council where we work on parliamentary level, so maybe there might be some elements to learn from. Yes. So even though I will no longer be president in the future, I will not reject you. I will continue working on Central Asia. Thank you. So the next speaker will be Monika Tsaikova from North Macedonia. You have the floor.
Thank you. I didn't want to apply for a work, but I just want to express my support to Lucia proposal for the recognition, formal recognition of the Young Parliamentarians OSCPA network. First of all, to thank you, Madam President, and the Secretariat for the support that we've been receiving till now as a Young Parliamentarians. Since its establishment, our network has proven to be one of the most active, dynamic, and engaged platforms we have here in OSCPA. I think that the vision of the networks brought a very fresh perspective, not just among OSCPA, but also into our national discourse and concrete contribution into our parliamentary work at home. This network is not just symbolic, it's not just an informal group, but it has shown through actions, initiatives, and results that it plays a vital role in shaping policies and making influential debates. So I think that now it's time to give this impact the formal recognition that it deserves, and it's time to move from acknowledgement to institutionalization of the network by supporting the statute and giving a formal defined roles on this network. With this, we will not just only validating the work that already being done, but we will also embedding young voices into the core of our decision-making processes. So this is how we will show trust. This is how we will show that we are sharing the responsibility. So let us give the young people not just a seat at the table, but a clear voice and power into the chambers. Thank you.
Thank you, Monika. And for the time being, the last speaker on my list is Mr. Guliev from Azerbaijan. Azai, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me thank our host for excellent organization of our annual session, and of course, the delegation of Portugal has been always very active in the work of the Assembly, and this is great to see all of them and also our colleagues here. Dear colleagues, as you know that we have very dynamic and active network or the informal group we call the Silk Road Group within the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. This group has made great success in the last few years, and recently we had very good conference in Budva in Montenegro, and bringing about 100 different, let's say, participants from different countries. And of course, I'd like to use this opportunity to thank Montenegrin delegation for kindly hosting this event. And it is very, very important that the number of the the secret group is growing, and today we will have opportunity to consider the membership of San Marino delegation to the secret group within the OSCE. And after that, right after the standing committee, we will have the meeting at 12:40. And using this opportunity, I'd like to invite all our member delegations to actively attend this meeting. I also want to thank Madam President, you and also the other colleagues who have always been available to support this initiative, because this is a platform that really can boost the second dimension of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, as well as bring people together in more flexible, let's say, environment, and to debate the issue that we don't have enough time to do it during the statutory meetings of the Assembly. This is pretty much appreciated. I thank all those who really, let's say, have paid great attention and contributed to this very, very important mission. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Azai. I think we have now taken all the members who wanted to take the floor. So I would like to thank you for all your comments and your active contribution to this discussion. Thank you. So next we go to the item number 4, which is related to financial questions and report of the Treasurer of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, Mr. Johan Büser. So before I give the floor to the Treasurer, let me simply underline that we have been challenges with our financial situation due to external factors which you are all aware of. These serious challenges are difficult on all of our people and parliaments, and I know that many of us are experiencing financial pressure. However, if we value the work that takes place in this assembly, we must of course pay for it. That requires support from all of us. Having been active in the assembly for many years, but particularly in the past 2 years, I have seen how cost effectively our international secretariat works. Each of them has numerous tasks, which enables it to be a much smaller and cost-efficient secretariat than we see in many other organizations. And this is what enables each of our countries to only pay very small amounts to the collective budget. I'm also aware, however, that some parliaments are in a better financial position to contribute more than others. Together with the Secretariat, I have been actively speaking to colleagues that may be able to contribute more. I hope that the next President will similarly continue to do so. I also want to very actively encourage parliaments to consider hosting a major assembly meeting in coming years. This really is a major contribution to our work. Yes, it is a lot of work, but it's also very rewarding for you and your parliament. Finally, I want to thank our Treasurer, Johan, for his efforts this past year. Mr. Büser, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Madam President, and thank you also to you for your leadership in this organization. So, dear colleagues, and let me also start by thanking our Portuguese host for welcoming us to this annual session. And as we open this annual session here in Porto, I find myself at the conclusion of my first term as Treasurer. It has been an honor to serve the Assembly during a time when financial and organizational matters have been particularly visible, perhaps more so than any other time in our Assembly's recent history. We have faced a difficult environment, as already been mentioned, both financially and politically. And the continued failure of the Russian Federation to meet its financial obligations has only deepened these challenges. This situation has forced us to rethink our budgeting practices, enhance our auditing procedures, and ensure that every euro we spend is aligned with the priorities of our Assembly. I am sincerely proud of the work we have done together, and when I was elected in Vancouver in the year of 2023, the Assembly adopted a resolution calling for regular performance audits. That mandate has been taken seriously, and a number of organizational reforms have been implemented. Today, the OSCE conducts both annual financial and performance audits. More structured and robust auditing procedures have been introduced over the past 2 years, bringing us into line with other parliamentary assemblies and also the OSCE. During the term, I've also asked for the Bureau's support to strengthen our financial regulations with clarifications that provide for more constructive and targeted auditing procedures. And in the eye of political and structural challenges, it is my conviction that our organization deserves to be strengthened to withstand the pressure. And the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly is being strengthened by enhanced transparency, openness, and accountability in our operations. But let us be honest, dear comrades. Even with these reforms, we cannot avoid the structural problems caused by the non-payment of assessed contributions. Over the past 3 years, the Russian Federation has failed to pay a cumulative amount of more than 760,000 euros. These funds are not symbolic. They are essential to our work. They support our staff, our meetings, our missions, and ultimately our ability to fulfill the democratic oversight function that is the core of this assembly. This financial pressure has forced us to rely more heavily on our reserves, and the depletion of our reserves poses a real risk to our long-term financial stability. We cannot rely indefinitely on voluntary contributions or on financial improvisation to sustain our work. Budgetary leadership and continued efforts to ensure stability will therefore be of utmost importance also in the future. I must also underscore the importance of compliance with our Rule 41.5, where a participating state fails to contribute for more than 9 months its delegation for faith's voting rights. And this rule is not merely a procedural formality, it's a measure designed to protect the integrity of this institution. In line with Rule 41.1 of the Rules of Procedure, a draft budget proposal was sent out on the 23rd of April. I have received correspondence from at least 2 delegations opposing the proposed budget increase. And as the budget, as you know, requires consensus -1 here in the Standing Committee to be accepted, a revised budget proposal has been sent out reflecting 0 nominal growth. And the updated budget maintains the overall amount at 4,373,000 euros, and it is the same level as the previous financial year. The revised budget proposal ensures budgetary stability, but it will nevertheless impact the Assembly's operational and institutional capacities. I have asked the Secretary General to develop a contingency plan in order to strike the right balance and make sure that the Assembly's interests are taken into account in the best possible way. The implementation of a 0 nominal growth budget will commence after the closing of the annual session by the Treasurer. Despite all of these difficulties, I remain encouraged by the commitment I have seen across this Assembly. I am deeply grateful to Secretary General Roberto Montella, Deputy Secretary General Gustavo Payares, and also the outstanding staff of the International Secretariat for their hard work and creative solutions in the face of these pressures. I also want to take the opportunity to express my gratitude to the national delegations contributing beyond the obligated dues. Your contributions to the Assembly are invaluable, whether it is additional financial support, secondment of staff, or by hosting the Assembly's meetings and events. A detailed list of all extra budgetary contributions can be found in my updated Treasurer's report. Together, we have kept the Assembly not only operational, but dynamic and relevant. We have expanded election observation, responded to geopolitical developments, and ensured that parliamentary diplomacy remains a cornerstone of the OSCE PA. Let us now move forward with a shared understanding that sound finances are not separate from our political mission. They are what make that mission possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Johan. Does anyone wish to comment on the Treasurer's report? No comments, I can see that. So we now move on to... Oh, sorry, France, you have the floor.
Oui, je suis vraiment... Merci Madame la Présidente, merci Monsieur le Trésorier. Désolé, la France parle souvent sur le sujet budgétaire, mais on est un pays très endetté, comme vous le savez, parmi les pays de l'OCDE. Cher Johan, Monsieur le Trésorier, la délégation française soutiendra et soutient votre proposition de croissance zéro pour le budget 2026, tel que vous nous l'avez renvoyé. C'est une position que nous avons toujours défendue dans cette Assemblée, comme vous le savez. Cependant, je souhaiterais, au nom de la délégation française, faire 2 remarques sur les conséquences que vous pointez très bien dans votre rapport. La première, c'est sur les missions d'observation électorale. Elles sont au cœur des activités de notre Assemblée, et alors que des menaces et des ingérences étrangères tentent de déstabiliser nos processus électoraux et nos démocraties dans la zone OSCE, ce serait un message désastreux pour les pays qui demandent le soutien de notre organisation de réduire significativement nos actions en ce domaine. Vous l'avez rappelé, c'est le cœur de notre action pour la paix et pour la démocratie. Le second point, c'est les traductions et l'interprétation, ce que j'appelle le multilinguisme, qui représente une richesse pour la paix OSCE et une reconnaissance de la diversité des cultures linguistiques des membres de notre Assemblée. Par ailleurs, il est une obligation statutaire, je le rappelle, de l'article 28. Nous défendrons donc, par l'intermédiaire de Pascal Alizard, ce point supplémentaire sur ce sujet, car il est déjà menacé, et vous comprendrez, Monsieur le Trésorier, que nous serons très attentifs à son évolution dans notre Assemblée. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. And next speaker will be Mr. Winkler from Germany. You have the floor.
Ja, Frau Präsidentin, herzlichen Dank. Ich werde jetzt ganz bewusst auf Deutsch sprechen. Ich möchte zunächst ganz herzlich unserem Schatzmeister danken für die wertvolle Arbeit in sehr, sehr schwierigen Zeiten. Auch wir haben die ein oder andere Anmerkung gemacht und haben ihn in seiner Arbeit unterstützt. Und wir hoffen, dass sollte er wiedergewählt werden oder sein Nachfolger diese Arbeit verantwortungsvoll fortsetzt. Ich möchte an der Stelle das, was mein französischer Kollege soeben gesagt hat, massiv unterstreichen und unterstützen. Es kann nicht sein, dass wir, was die Mehrsprachigkeit betrifft, zu Sparverpflichtungen oder uns zum Sparen verpflichten in Bereichen, die größten Beitragszahler, die auch bereit sind, ihre Beiträge zu erhöhen, damit belasten. Wenn wir von der Mehrsprachigkeit ausgehen, dann haben wir 6 Amtssprachen und wir sehen ganz genau, an welchen Punkten die Erhöhung des Budgets scheitert. Es kann dann nicht sein, dass die Nationen, die ihre Beiträge sehr pflichtbewusst abführen, dass die darunter leiden und dass beispielsweise das Französische, aber eben in meinem Fall auch das Deutsche darunter leidet. Wir haben nicht mehr alle der Texte auf Deutsch vorliegen. Das ist sehr bedauerlich, während wir andere Sprachen von Ländern, die ihren Verpflichtungen nicht nachkommen, nach wie vor übersetzen. Also ich bitte hier, und deswegen unterstütze ich ausdrücklich nochmal auch die Supplementary Items der französischen Delegation, dass wir hier zu einer Lösung kommen, die nicht die Länder leiden lässt, die ihren Verpflichtungen nachkommen. Vielen Dank.
Thank you, Mr. Winkler. And the next speaker is Per Pons from Spain. There you have the floor.
Madam President, thank you again for giving me the floor, and I'm going to shift to Spanish as well, then, if you don't mind. En primer lugar, gracias al tesorero, a Johan Busser, por su trabajo en estos 2 últimos años. Y quería hacer una primera reflexión, y es que el presupuesto de una organización es exactamente su primer instrumento para realizar las políticas que quiere llevar a cabo. Por tanto, ante esta situación, prefiero ver el vaso medio lleno. El primer corolario de lo que está transmitiendo el tesorero es que vamos a tener que priorizar y tener que hacer un plan de acción muy claro. Yo solo quería reflexionar sobre dos cosas. Una, renunciar a cualquier política a nivel de multilingüismo es renunciar a nuestra diversidad y a nuestra fuerza, en primer lugar. Y en segundo lugar, creo que no podemos renunciar a reforzar nuestras observaciones electorales. Por tanto, vamos a tener que reflexionar conjuntamente sobre cómo podemos mantener el nivel de las observaciones electorales, y habrá que pensar en situaciones como las que hemos hecho en Rumanía, por ejemplo, con misiones electorales reducidas o de mínimos, pero sí que es verdad que renunciar a aspectos como el multilingüismo o renunciar a aspectos como las observaciones electorales es, diríamos, ir contra nuestros principios fundacionales. Por tanto, yo invitaría a todos a que tratáramos de reflexionar conjuntamente sobre cómo o de qué forma vamos a priorizar un presupuesto que tiene un crecimiento cero en un momento, lógicamente, en el que las demandas son cada vez más altas para esta organización. Por tanto, se abre un periodo realmente interesante y que va a necesitar de decisiones políticas importantes. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. So I would now like to ask Johan Buser to comment on these comments, if you please.
Thank you, Madam President, and I would like to thank Mr. Lecamp, Mr. Winkler and Mr. Pons for their comments. They are well received and will of course be taken into account for the upcoming work for the Treasurer. Even if I'm re-elected, I will of course take them into account, and I hope they will be taken into account, however. So, regarding the election observations, the message from the Assembly has always been clear that these observations, they are the crown jewels of our work. So, of course, this should be prioritized because this has been a very clear message from you during all these years I have served as Treasurer and also before when I was serving as a Rapporteur. So I fully agree with this, and of course we need to find also solutions for the multilingualism, but still we need to fight hard for our financial situation, and we need to find more extra budgetary contributions, and I know that the Secretariat is working very hard on this together with me as the Treasurer, and we will handle a very tricky and difficult financial situation. So I really want to be clear on that this is what a zero growth nominal budget means. But we will do our best and we will take your comments into account. So thank you very much for your engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Johan. We now move on to item number 4.2, which is approval of the budget. Does the Standing Committee approve the revised budget proposal as circulated on the 23rd of June for the financial year from the 1st of October 2025 to 30th of September 2026? No objections, so the budget is approved. We then move on to item number 5 on our agenda, which is report of the Secretary General of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. You have the floor, Roberto Montella.
Thank you very much, Madam President. A written report has already been circulated a week ago, so if there are any questions on the report, I will be happy to take them at the end. I just wanted to make a few remarks before we get into the questions. First of all, I'd like to thank, as well as everybody else, Portugal, Ms. Cardoza, Luis Graça, and all the staff of the Portuguese Parliament for organizing this event. The venue is fantastic. The preparations that you've put into this is enormous. I'd like to also underline that Portugal has always played a very important role in our Assembly. We've had in the past a president of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, João Soares, vice presidents, Isabel Santos and Isa de Sena. So you've contributed also in leadership positions. We have now 2 members in the Bureau. So Portugal plays an important role in this Assembly. And Portugal actually in this very building in 2002 hosted the last ministerial meeting of the OSCE where a ministerial declaration was approved That was the last time that the OSCE had an agreed document at the governmental level. Since then, we've never had a political declaration of ministers. We do have in the OSCE every year a declaration, we pass documents, but in the OSCE governmental side, just to give you a sense of how a consensual organization works, has not had a ministerial declaration since 2002 when it was taking place in this very building. Thank you very much on the budget. Johan, great work on leading this process, and I thank all the delegations for their contributions. I just saw a few days ago what happened in The Hague at the NATO summit, where, let's say, the figures and the percentages were a little bit different than the ones we are talking here. And it's also, you know, a sign of our times. I mean, there is so much money invested in hard security, in trying to prepare for defense, while a little bit of contributions for also conflict prevention, conflict resolution, parliamentary diplomacy is also welcomed. But we will manage with the small budget that we had from last year. We have a great team with Gustavo and Stephen and the Secretariat who are very austere, let's say, and make sure that we run our books in a very, very thrift way. And so we will try to save money and make sure that we can still offer the same level of services as we normally do for you at the same budget lines. This is a record meeting in terms of participation. We have 55 delegations participating in these meetings. It's around 262 members of parliament, if Odile will know the correct figure. But it's the record. I mean, basically, apart from the Russian Federation for obvious reasons and Moldova, all the delegations are represented here. So it shows also, it's a testimony for the great will of members of parliament to participate. Madam President, this is the 50th anniversary of this organization. And I think we have to talk about it. I mean, it's the year when the Helsinki Foundation Act was made. You will see there is a great exhibition of photos and also of documents of the 50th anniversary of this organization. There will be a video broadcast in 2 days of an hour and a half, but I really recommend members to see that video because it really gives a sense of the spirit of this organization. But we have to be honest, this organization is also undergoing some challenges. It's also going, I don't know, I sometimes call it an existential crisis because the spirit of the organization sometimes is challenged also from the documents that we have proposed to adopt. And I think we need to get into this discussion, and maybe it's a bit controversial discussion, but I think we need to call a spade to a spade and really understand what is the spirit of the organization. Pia, you've received a lot of congratulations, a lot of compliments for your presidency that comes to an end on the 3rd of July. And I think these compliments were very well placed. I have to add mine, but mine are not the news. You know that I've always appreciated your leadership. But I think what is really necessary to underline is that you've really truly embodied the spirit of Helsinki. The spirit of Helsinki is a spirit, I have actually written here what was in the final declaration of Helsinki under cooperation among states. It says that the states will endeavor in developing their cooperation as equals to promote mutual understanding and confidence, friendly relations, and then good neighborly relations among themselves, international peace, security, and justice. I think the word friendly, trying to promote friendly relations, I think we do this very well here in the Parliamentary Assembly, where MPs try to interact with each other, try to talk to each other, try to build relationship. But I think you've done this, Pia, in the last 2 years, and sometimes, and we have to say it, under heavy pressure not to do so. You have paid in Finland a political price, let's say, for some meetings that you've held, with some initiatives that you wanted to take, which were considered not politically correct from some of the delegations. But I commend you for doing this, because while paying maybe a political price back at home in Finland, you have really embodied the true spirit of Helsinki, which is that of dialogue, which is that of talking to those you disagree with, outreach with those you have difficulties with. This is not NATO. NATO, we saw it 2 days ago, is an alliance. It's like-minded countries. They all agree. And actually they can agree also on increasing their budget for defense. Here, we are not allied. This is not this is an organization of countries who were, when it was established, actually enemies. There was the Soviet Union and there was the United States. These are participating states. They're all equal, but they are not allied. So the tools of sanction, the tools of exclusion are non-OSCE tools. In the OSCE, we don't sanction, we don't exclude, we include, we talk, we try to convince those who are in disagreement with the values of the organization that they themselves voluntarily adhered to, and if they violate them, they need to be told so. But if they are out, you cannot tell them, so then we become another NATO. And if we become another NATO, then we are not very good at that, because we don't have that capability, we don't have that kind of financing, and we don't have the heavy artillery to deliver like NATO. The paradox is that sometimes NATO has the heavy artillery, does not deliver with those they consider that they only understand force, and then they request to us to deliver with those who only understand force. So I think we need to make sure that we preserve the spirit of Helsinki in the 50th anniversary. At the end of July, beginning of August, there will be in Helsinki a big meeting, and I hope that this spirit of Helsinki will prevail also there, but you've definitely done it yourself, Pia, during this period. I think it's very good that parliamentarians meet here now at the 50th anniversary, because you represent, I always say it, 1 billion citizens. You are the representative of the, let's say, common will of the OSCE citizens. And I think from the declaration of Porto, I think the marching orders also for the ministers who will meet actually in Switzerland at the end in Vienna, sorry, at the end of this year, they should get from parliamentarians what is the guidelines. Where do you want this organization to go? This has been 50 years. Are they going to be 50 more years? And if there are going to be 50 more years, are they going to be in line and with the principles and the spirit when the organization was established? I have no doubt about that. I mean, I've served this organization, as most of you know, in the field operations, in the institutions for many years. I've seen the beneficiaries of the OSCE product. And I think the organization actually delivers a lot to the day-to-day life of many citizens in areas like Central Asia, in the Caucasus, in Eastern Europe. But many people, let's say, in the greater public don't see that. But the organization actually delivers and does great work. So I have no doubt in the sense that we need to promote this organization. We need to preserve an organization which talks about dialogue, talks about cooperation, reaching out to those you disagree with. And I hope that the spirit of the organization will prevail. One point about your engagement. I have seen the number of activities that the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly has done since the last time we met in Vienna, which is really overwhelming. And this I must commend all the members. I can see that there is a lot of interest, a lot of desire from members to engage, to participate, to contribute. And I feel it as a responsibility of the Secretary General, of the Secretariat also, to help you canalize this energy. I think that members want to participate when they come to the OSCE or in international settings, would like to feel that their time is actually a useful time, is actually a time that they put into contributing to something. Sometimes we would like to be very ambitious and resolving big issues. We're all aware of what is our capabilities, but at least I want to make sure that we exhaust the perimeter of our possibilities by also helping you make sure that your desire, your enthusiasm, your will to participate and to contribute is actually channeled through the right channels. And here, I mean, what we've done on migration, there will be the committees, what we've done on the fight against terrorism, what we've done on Ukraine. I must compliment you, Madam President, also as head of the PSTU. I've seen the PSTU extremely active in this last period, probably also with Francesco's input and Yuri from the Ukrainian delegation. But I've seen a lot of activities on Ukraine. And I must say, on Ukraine, you've heard me saying this before, I have no doubt we have an impeccable track record on what we've done on Ukraine. Ever since 2014, when through Ben Cardin's resolution we called it an illegal annexation of Crimea and a gross uncorrected violation of the Helsinki Final Act, we called the country, the Russian Federation, we called the victim Ukraine. So I think we have no doubt here in the Parliamentary Assembly called spade to a spade, and we have an impeccable track record on this. Election observation missions, of course, is our flagship activity. We will continue to do that. There are less elections in the fall and in the spring than other years. Of course, it depends on the election cycle, but you never know. Normally, there are early elections just popping up. And the great thing about our election department, Stephanie is here, is the capacity to immediately react. So if there is an election popping up, we will be able to respond to that. And also with the resources that we have been allocated, we will manage to do them. A way to contribute also to our budget, and I thank Johan referred to his report to all the list of those who contribute. I don't need to go through the usual ones, but I want to thank all the countries who do extra budgetary contributions, including, of course, Denmark and Austria, who host our offices. But another way to contribute is also maybe to host events. I thank Turkey to host our autumn meeting this October, and Andorra and the Netherlands who will host our next annual session. But I think we need to find venues for 2027, 2028, 2029. So I will be going around, I hope delegates will not run away from me, trying to find possible volunteers to host the annual session in 27, 28, 29, and also the autumn meeting in 28 and 29. So this is a way also to contribute to our budget by hosting the event. Last word to the team of the International Secretariat. I mentioned Gustavo here as Deputy Secretary General, but Andreas as Chief of Staff. All the staff of the Secretariat, as you have, Jenny Zoffoli was very generous in the way you've described it, but I think they really work with a lot of professionality. They put in long hours in this work. They're not seeking visibility, they're not seeking publicity, but there's a lot of work that is done behind the scene, and I'm very proud of this team. I think it's a very good balance of young professionals and more experienced, not old, but more experienced professionals. But I really am proud of the team, and I hope that we will strengthen this team spirit and continue like that. So, Pia, my last word is for you. Thank you very much, really, for these last 2 years. You leave the Assembly politically very central, especially embodying yourself the spirit of Helsinki, administratively stable, thanks to also budgets that have been passed, and the Secretary General has been renewed in his mandate last year. And also you leave this Assembly very much financially secure. So I thank you for this very much, and I yield back the floor to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberto. Also, thank you for your kind words. Are there any comments you would like to make on Roberto's statements? Sweden, Carina Ödebrink, you have the floor.
Yes. Thank you, Madam President. And first, I would like to thank our Portuguese colleagues for hosting this event here in Portugal. I have a question about who or which level is responsible for ensuring that commitments that have been made in our yearly declarations are actually implemented. Our rule of procedure states that the Standing Committee shall prepare the work of the Assembly in between sessions. The Bureau shall be responsible for ensuring that the decisions of the Standing Committee are carried out and ensure the efficient operation of the Assembly in between meetings of the Standing Committee. The declaration that we adopt every year include a series of commitments that, to varying degrees, call on us member states to act. Some are general commitments where the OSCE is expected to be a driving force, but there are also decisions that explicitly calls for the OSCE to act and provide concrete results. For example, in the Bucharest Declaration of 2024, it was decided that, and I quote, calls on the Standing Committee to review and develop a proposal by the next annual session on how to achieve a better gender balance within the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. by countering the underrepresentation of women in the Assembly in order to promote gender equality and achieve fair and equal decision-making. I want to thank here our colleagues from Canada whose important support for the commitment ensured its passage in the second committee. From what I can tell, there is no clarification in the rules of procedure of how these decisions are followed up on or evaluated in relation to their contribution to change. We can write and adopt as many well-formulated commitments as we want, but if they remain just that and do not result in concrete action, then what is the point? So I would like to ask firstly the Secretary General and secondly, Madam President, what happened to this decision? Has anything been done? And if so, what is the proposal that will be presented to this annual session here in Porto? And my last word, I also want to say that I talked about this when we had the Bureau meeting in Helsinki in February this year. So I'm really keen to hear the answer from the Secretary General. Thank you very much.
Okay, there is Per Pons from Spain who would like to take the floor next, and then thereafter, if there's nobody else who wishes to take the floor, then we will respond. So, Per, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you again, Roberto, for your speech. Two things. One, regarding the role of NATO and the role of the OCPA, I think it's important what you said about the distinction between the two bodies. They are not substitutoire, as the French say, but complementary or different. And we are autonomous, and we are a key body for being the political and diplomatic and parliamentary glue. And there is no other organization doing that. So I agree on that. And the first point is, if you look at the situation, we need more glue than ever. And then we are very, let's say, powerful tool. And the second one is regarding the report. You mentioned in the report the limited observations that we carried out in Romania. I would like to ask you, how do you see this new, let's say, this new trend? If you think that this could be more implemented if we are at zero growth, if you could explain how was the outcome? Speaking from one MPs that were there, they were saying that it was very useful, a very powerful tool. I think Romania was a very key case this year. It's a key case because not only about the election, but all the challenges that posed. And then I would like to ask you how you forecast if there is a way of working hybrid with, let's say, full package observations and limited observations or very limited observations, because we will have to deal with this kind of situations if we want to cover all the elections, but at the same time we don't have enough budget. Because in the end, you clearly said one thing, that you as a secretariat, and I fully agree, I always said the same thing, that it's a very limited secretariat with a very huge and professional response, how we can do a better governance to really focus on the main pillars, because if we do 30 things, we will not be able to cover them in terms of budget. So I would like to ask you about this limited observation and how you can explain how it went, or maybe one MP who was there could a little bit elaborate a bit more. Thank you.
So now I give the floor back to Roberto, please respond.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Karina and Pere, for your questions. I start with Karina because you're really touching a very, very important issue, Karina. And I think this is a challenge that we've had many times in the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. And ever since I came into this position, I was thinking about that, because actually I think at the annual session in Minsk, I was asked by the Canadian delegation who said, look, very nice, we've met here for 5 days, we've come up with 15 documents, many recommendations to the governments, to the Secretariat, to our own Assembly, and but what happens now? After this, what happens with this document that we've approved, where we call on, I don't know, the Secretary General to do this, the Ministerial Council to do that, the Parliamentary Assembly to do this. So what is the next step and who is responsible to make sure that these things that we have declared actually take place. I'll give you now a quick, hopefully we have time, but a quick update on what mechanically happens so that you understand why I actually started within the Bureau a kind of a brainstorming exercise of our own assembly to think a little bit about the reforms, because there are things that need to be revisited in our procedures in order to make ourselves more efficient. So we will have the Porto Declaration. At the end of the Porto Declaration, with all the suggestions, like we had in Bucharest, with all the suggestions that you mentioned, I, according to our rules, am required to distribute this declaration to the foreign ministers of the OSCE. Myself, not even the president. Roberto signs a letter to the 57 foreign ministers, says the parliamentarians have met, they have spoken, this is what they said, take it into consideration ahead of the ministerial meeting. That's the first thing. And then our ambassador, Miodrag Panczewski, is not here, probably. He is over there. He will have a briefing with all the ambassadors in Vienna in the weeks to come to basically give a compte rendu of this meeting and give them the official declaration. Now, what happens after that is, like the OSCE works by consensus. So if here we say, we call on governments to do these different things, almost rarely the diplomats in Vienna take our declaration and start from the documents that we've approved here. Because our documents are approved by majority, while the organization works by consensus. So it will be very difficult to have a ministerial declaration or a ministerial document which reflects what the parliamentarians have declared here. Hence, this is our added value, that we can say these things, we can speak up, but rarely then it can become law, let's say, in the Ministerial Council. Now, you are more referring into internal OSCPA, like you said, last year we had a resolution on gender, what exactly happened. Here, on gender, I am responsible, of course, for the Secretariat, and I must say, Eddie Fry, she's here, she will be proud of what we have done in the last years. We have a purely, let's say, gender-balanced Secretariat also in position of responsibilities. So we kind of have, let's say, we've done our homework and we keep on doing our homework at the Secretariat. When it comes to parliamentary delegations, this was a call, but it didn't become law through a standing committee decision, which works by consensus -1. So whatever we suggest also to the PA has to go through this body and has to be approved by consensus -1. So if the declaration in Bucharest said each delegation should be totally gender balanced, there is no way to force country X to make a delegation gender balanced, because there is not a rules of procedure change, because the standing committee did not say, considering what the plenary has decided in Bucharest, we hereby declare that from now onwards each delegation has to be totally gender balanced. So a country can come with an all female or all male delegation, and that will be okay, because, so notwithstanding a political will, de facto it doesn't happen. But we had the example, Artur Gerasimov and Nikita Kuzraev, remember, with the famous amendment to exclude one country. There was a wish, let's say, to not exclude, but to postpone membership. Yeah, but there was that. I mean, I don't want to get into the merit of that, but that was another example. So there was a clear political will of the majority of the assembly. But then when it has to become law, which is through a standing committee decision, there was obviously more than one country who was against it, so it doesn't happen. So we have these challenges, and I think we've come to the conclusion that maybe it's okay to have a plenary which makes political decisions, but then what we can actually implement in terms of our own OSCPA is limited to what the standing committee can actually approve. We have an example. I didn't mention the youth network that was just mentioned by all of you here. We've heard only consenting voices of making this new youth network a institution, an ad hoc group. Everybody has agreed, but we have not put it to the vote, because if we put it to the vote, we know that there are a couple of delegations who have already approached us and say, don't put it to the vote because we will vote against it. So it's not going to pass. So although there was almost 96% of, there was here expressed 100% consensus for this, but if it comes to a vote, it will not pass this time. We'll try in October in Istanbul. So these are the challenges that we have between the political, let's say, indications and its actual implementation. Pere, you mentioned about the example of Romania and the limited election observation missions. We've actually had with Stephanie and the election department a brainstorming in the Secretariat following this experience, which those who were there, Freya and Miodrag, Andreas, all said it was a very positive experience. So we are going to have it as a tool available. It's interesting what you mean. It could be also in hybrid form in terms of that you have the briefing of those remotely and then deploying on the ground just a limited group. It's something that it's work in progress, but it's definitely, because of the positive experience we've had in Romania, we might use this tool in the future when appropriate, and of course depending on the wish of the president of the time and the bureau, if the bureau needs to be consulted. I hope I've answered the two questions. Madam President, I think I've answered the two questions, I hope.
Yes, thank you, Roberto. I would like to comment something on when it comes to gender balance that, Karina, you brought up. Every time there is an election observation mission, me as a president, I have a task of appointing two people, one for special coordinator and the other one for head of delegation of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. And usually I look at the names from the perspective to have the three elements in that. And first of all, gender balance, geographical balance, and then third, even political balance, if that is possible. But on practical terms, we usually also come to a situation where it is a question of availability of the people for that particular timeline for the election observation mission, because we all have our domestic issues in our domestic parliaments, and sometimes the people that we have projected to be a special coordinator or head of delegation are not available for that mission. And also, the other thing we have to bear in mind is that the person or the two people we are talking about need to have enough experience. So we cannot appoint people who have not participated in enough number of election observation missions. There has to be enough professionalism in that work. So very often we need to also compromise. And unfortunately, there are fewer females available for these positions. So I call upon all the delegations also to have enough ladies in their team. And the other thing I wanted to comment related to gender issues is the Bureau, because this comes up to the political groups, because it's the responsibility of the political groups to make sure that there are enough candidates from both genders. If there are only males available, how can we then elect any females? It's as simple as that. So I call upon again also to political parties and political groups to have both genders as candidates for the Bureau offices. It's important. So, Karina, you have the floor.
Thank you once again, Madam President. And I don't want to start a big discussion, and I will thank you for your answers. But I think this is not like going to the moon. This is much easier, I think. And of course, we must call on the national delegations to contribute to a more gender-balanced delegation. That's important. And there are some issues that makes it very hard to get a gender-balanced assembly, but other assemblies have succeeded. The Parliamentary Assembly of the European Council, they have regulations for gender balance. And I think we can look at that, and we can maybe start or build a coalition of the willings for more gender balance. I think that's very important, because I think we will be a better assembly if we do. So thank you.
Thank you, and Roberto, you have the floor.
I have a very practical proposal, so to make it happen very quickly. I suggest that you make a change of rule proposal to the Rules Committee, and then we will discuss it in the Rules Committee, and then if the Rules Committee, which is kind of also representative, and we get a feeling that the Standing Committee is ready to approve a formulation, I don't know how you want to formulate it in your proposal and how the Rules Committee comes up with, which increases the gender balance in line with what you mentioned about the European Council and Council of Europe, then we'll see if there is consensus -1 to approve it. I think this is the most practical thing, and this can be operationalized very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. And if there are no further comments, we will move on to item number 6, which is information on upcoming meetings of the OSCPA in 2025 and 26. Oh, sorry. Irene, you have the floor.
Yes. Concerning the gender balance you were discussing before, first of all, if you remember, I took the initiative and we approved at the Rules of Procedure Committee, in which I participate as well, that when we have appointments for observation missions or for head of OSCPA delegations, the gender balance has to be there. We tried multiple times to have also an amendment concerning the participation of women in the delegations, but there were many delegations that opposed that. For example, my American colleague who is in the Rules of Procedure Committee, he said, we prefer to leave things as they come, because in my country, women who do their job, they get elected, so I don't want this to be a rule. It's supposed to happen if women are interested to be there. But we tried it, and it wasn't easy, first of all, for the delegations to be as a rule to have a woman in the delegation, unfortunately, because that was my wish too. But I think since we all agreed at the Rules of Procedure Committee that this gender balance will be there during the missions, I don't know if we had any incidents that the gender balance was not in order. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Irene. Gender balance for sure will be respected in the Parliamentary Assembly also in the future, and we will emphasize it even more. So we now go back to the item number 6 related to our upcoming meetings this year and next year. So our next meeting will be our autumn meeting in Istanbul, Turkey, between the 17th and the 19th of November. So 17 and 19 of November. The Bureau will meet on the 3rd of December prior to the Ministerial Council, which will be held this time in Vienna. As customary, our winter meeting will be held in Vienna, also in Vienna, on 19th and 20th of February 2026. Our 33rd annual session will take place in The Hague between the 4th and the 8th of July 2026. I'm also pleased to announce that Andorra has offered to host the 2026 autumn meeting. Would any of the hosts for our upcoming meetings like to intervene at this point? We are looking looking forward to having a video on behalf of the Netherlands?
While we prepare for the video, maybe.
While we prepare for the video, there is Mr. Toffoli from Italy who can take the floor. Please go ahead.
Grazie Presidente. Per quanto riguarda l'Italia, noi saremmo stati interessati, per quanto riguarda l'Italia, noi saremmo stati interessati a proporci per il 2027, per un autunnale, un annuale. Il problema è che il 2027 sarà l'anno delle elezioni e questa cosa per noi insomma è difficoltoso a livello logistico organizzare un evento come una sessione annuale. La scadenza naturale è prevista a settembre per quanto riguarda questa legislatura. Sicuramente, come abbiamo organizzato delle 3 momenti molto importanti in Italia, la missione a Lampedusa, la conferenza di Roma e quella con le Nazioni Unite, sicuramente da qui alla fine della nostra legislatura italiana organizzeremo, non dico un'altra, ma altri momenti importanti di incontro nel nostro Paese, e io ho in testa anche di ragionare su un evento che possa svolgersi vicino a Milano, ma non anticipiamo nulla. Grazie.
Thank you, Eugenio. I'm sure all of us would love to come to Italy for our annual session, one day or another, eventually. So do we now have the video ready?
Video?
The States General of the Netherlands, consisting of the Senate and the House of Representatives, is proud to host in 2026 the annual session of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. We look forward to welcoming you, delegates from the OSCE region, to The Hague, the international city of peace and justice. Welcome on behalf of the Senate.
And welcome on behalf of the House of Representatives. The Hague is a unique city where politics, law and international cooperation come together. It is home to parliament, government, embassies and numerous international organizations working on international security. But The Hague is more than politics and diplomacy. It is an elegant city by the sea, full of culture, history and hospitality. Discover the place where world affairs and people come together.
Dear colleagues, we are proud to work alongside you, fellow parliamentarians dedicated to building a safer world. Our goal is to create an open and welcoming atmosphere for meaningful dialogue during the upcoming annual session in The Hague. Each year, this event comes to life in a new host country, gathering around 700 parliamentarians and guests from all participating states and institutions of OSCE. It is a unique opportunity to come together, exchange ideas, and take collective steps toward enhanced global security. Will you join us July 2026? I look forward to welcoming you to my beautiful hometown, The Hague.
Well done, Farah. We look forward to being in The Hague next year this time. So, several weeks ago, I and the Secretary General wrote to each of you asking you to consider the possibility of hosting an upcoming meeting. With only 24 months to go, it is now very important for us to soon identify and confirm a host for our 2027 annual session. I would again urge delegations that may be in a position to host our 2027 meeting or meetings in subsequent years to engage in further discussions with the Secretariat. Me and Roberto, we are at your disposal to any discussion related to that.
If we don't find Portugal, we have to do it again.
And before we go further, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Altinok from Turkey. You have the floor.
Evet, değerli Pia, değerli meslektaşlarım, öncelikle Portekiz'e bu güzel organizasyon için teşekkür ediyorum. Gerçekten çok güzel bir organizasyon ortaya koydular. PİA'ya da teşekkür ediyorum. 2 yıllık başkanlık sürecinde gerçekten çok güzel ve muhteşem bir başkanlık örneği ortaya koydu. Çok güzel ilişkiler geliştirdi. Çok dengeli ve birlikteliğimizi, bir arada olmamızı sağlayan çok güzel işler ortaya koydu. Türkiye ziyaretinde de birlikte olmaktan ve Türkiye'deki misafir etmekten de kendisini çok mutlu olduk. Sekreteriye teşekkür ediyorum. Çok güzel ilişkilerimiz var. Çok güzel diyaloglar kuruyoruz. Aşamayacağımız, konuştuktan sonra hiçbir problem olmadığını görüyoruz. Asamblenin bence en önemli önceliği diplomasi, parlamenter diplomasi. Tabii her zaman birbirimizi anlamakta, belki birbirimizin fikirlerini kabul etmekte zorlanabiliriz ama birbirimizi dinleyebilmek, birbirimizi anlamak için gayret etmek, empati gösterebilmek çok önemli. Ben kendi adıma ve heyetim adına çok mutluyum ve çok güzel anlar yaşıyorum parlamentoda. 7 yıldır bu, 6 yıldır bu organizasyon içerisinde başkan olarak görev yapıyorum. İlk geldiğim günle 6. sene içerisinde burada görev yapan her ülkeden farklı parlamenterlerle ilişkilerimizin her geçen gün daha iyi noktaya geldiğini yaşayarak görmekten çok büyük bir mutluluk duyuyorum. Onun için AGİTBA'nın belki en büyük özelliği, en büyük değeri bu. Bunun kıymetini bilmemiz lazım. Her şeyde anlaşamıyoruz. Her konuda da anlaşamıyoruz. Anlaşamadığımız bir sürü konu oluyor. Ama birbirimize empati duyabiliyoruz. Niye? Anlaşamadığımız noktasında da birbirimizi anlamaya gayret ediyoruz. Dedikten sonra sonbaharda Kasım'ın 17-19'unda İstanbul'la alakalı bütün hazırlıklarımız tamam. Yani sonbaharı beklemeden şimdi gelseniz dahi bütün hazırlıklar tamam. Yarın organizasyonu rahatlıkla yapabilecek durumdayız. Çok muhteşem bir otel, çok muhteşem bir konferans salonu ayarladık. O Türkiye'nin, İstanbul'un o güzelliklerini birlikte yaşamayı ve yaşatmayı arzu ediyorum ama benim sekreteriyadaki arkadaşlarıma, Türk sekreteriyası arkadaşlarına söyledim. Ecem'e söyledim. Çalışmalarda mümkünse saat 4'ten sonraya kalmasın. İstanbul'a gelen arkadaşlarımızın 4'ten sonra biraz İstanbul'un güzelliklerini de görebilme şansları olsun diye söyledim. Bunu Farah çok mutlu oldu zannediyorum. Bütün arkadaşlarımızın da benim bu düşünceme katıldığını, büyük bir kısmının en azından katıldığını düşünüyorum. Zannediyorum ki Ağustos sonunda konaklama ile ilgili linkleri arkadaşlarımız açacaklar. Ona göre gerekli çalışmalara üyelerimiz yapabilir. Ayrıca salonun dışında sonbahar toplantısıyla alakalı bir çalışma yapan arkadaşlarımız var. Ön programı arzu eden arkadaşlarımız oradan alabilirler. Ben tekrar başkanımıza ve yönetiminde yer alan arkadaşlarımıza teşekkür ediyorum. Sekreteriye teşekkür ediyorum. İnşallah sonbaharda sağlıklı ve sıhhatli herkesi dinç bir şekilde İstanbul'da görmek istiyorum. Herkese selamlar.
Thank you, Mr. Altinok. It will be a real pleasure for all of us to return to Istanbul. I say to return because we were there in 2013, if I remember it correctly. So it will be wonderful to be back there. And also thank you for organizing other events. A CCT committee recently visited Turkey, and I personally made a presidential visit to Turkey. Thank you for that. It was really a pleasure for me. So the next speaker will be Mr. Mamador from Azerbaijan. Mamador, you have the floor.
Madam President, thank you very much. I use this opportunity to thank you for your incredible service to the Assembly as the President. We really enjoyed working together with you. I would like just to use this opportunity to remind this committee that the Silk Road Group meeting, which we were initially scheduled for 12:40, will start immediately after the end of the committee meeting here. This is the venue of the group meeting is the room number 2, just opposite side of this hall. Hall number 2. It's the number of the name of the hall is Di Maria. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mamador, for reminding about that event. I will be there personally to pay a visit to your group. And if nobody else wants to take the floor, then we move on to item number 7, which is any other business. So, dear colleagues, it has been proposed to me that due to the situation in the Middle East, we should have a dedicated debate on this topic, the Middle East. I propose, therefore, that part of the general debate anticipated in the plenary on the 2nd and on the 3rd July will be dedicated to discussion on the situation in the Middle East. Does anybody have any objections? If nobody objects, then this proposal is approved.
Mr. Papa.
Are there any other issues that you would like to?
Sorry, can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Irene, you have the floor.
Yes, because we are in the line of fire in Cyprus, I think if we have the discussion on the 3rd of July, it's late because many of the delegations will depart. So it would be far better to have this discussion on the 2nd of July. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. Well noted. We will have the debate on the 2nd of July. Does anybody else wish to take the floor? Nikita Podurayev from Ukraine, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Dear colleagues, first of all, I would like to sincerely thank our President Pia Kauma for her years of dedicated service to the cause of cooperation and security. We thank Pia not only as the leaders of the Ukrainian delegation, but also as members of our strong international community, the OSCE. Pia Kauma has done an extraordinary amount to support Ukraine in its struggle against a criminal regime and its accomplices, some of whom still dare to spread lies in this very assembly. And Pia Kauma put all her efforts to achieve just peace for Ukraine. If there was ever any disagreement between us and our Madam President, it was only about our Ukrainian point of view to the priorities of our organization. Because what do we need? Yes, we need cooperation to empower those countries that genuinely strive for peace. Do we need dialogue? That again was mentioned today by some of our colleagues and friends here. Yes, we need dialogue between nations ready to defend peace. We need dialogue for the sake of collective security, not for collective surrender. But should we engage in dialogue with those who launch a full-scale war in Europe? With those who have turned terror and torture into a daily routine? No. No, and once again, no. With murderers, torturers, the rapists, there can be only one kind of discussion about the terms of a temporary ceasefire, because there can be no true peace with war criminals. Unpunished evil always returns with a new war sooner than anyone expects. Moreover, the so-called Russian Federation, which is neither truly Russian nor a federation, is already waging a hybrid war against every democratic nation, primarily in Europe, but not only here. And tomorrow, together with the Swedish and Finnish delegations, we will host a special side event devoted to these very issues: Russia's hybrid war against the civilized world. There, dear colleagues, we will show you the true scale of this threat and the tragic political consequences that may come from inaction. I warmly invite all of you to this very practical mini-conference with the participants of bright practicing professionals from Sweden and Ukraine. Because forewarned is forearmed. Join us tomorrow at 12:30 and learn how to protect yourself and your future from Russian domination. And colleagues, don't accept my intervention as radicalism. there is the voice of practical experience. It's the clarity that comes from seeing pure evil face to face. I thank you.
Thank you, Mikita. My work and the work of this assembly in support of Ukraine will continue. You can rest assured that that will be the case. But now, my friends, this meeting is concluded. Please remove all your belongings from the room, as the next meeting in this room will be in a different format, and the opening session will be at 3 o'clock this afternoon. See you then. Thank you.